What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back, as always, with Alex Barth to break down the Patriots' Week 12 loss to the Miami Dolphins. But before we jump into that game, we had a little Patriots breaking news within the last hour, and it has to do with Jabril Peppers, who was reinstated on Monday and is no longer on the commissioner exempt list. So he's now eligible to be back, or he already could have been in the building, right? I believe, but he wasn't able to practice or play in games.
No team activities, right?
So he is now eligible to participate in team activities. That includes practicing and playing games. Sounds like from the NFL statement, the investigation from early October is still ongoing. He's due back in court in January. I think it was January 22nd. So the league said they will, keep tabs on this and keep reviewing everything. As he's activated off the exempt list, he has to come back onto the Patriots active roster. So the team released a statement that he will return to the active roster. They already had a spot on the 53-man roster, so they don't have to make a corresponding move. Also from the team, they said, we understand that the league's investigation into the matter will continue, as will the legal process. We will await the outcome of both before making any further comments. So Jabril Peppers is on the active roster. Where does it go from here? Do you think, Barth, while the whole kind of legal thing still is over his head for another 2 months or here or so?
I mean, like you said, it's still sorry. I'm just trying to find a name here. It's still hanging over his head, like you said. And it's still going to be an issue. And this specific issue, the domestic violence issue, is a non-starter for them. You go back to 1996 and the release of Christian Peter. This is a zero tolerance issue. I know Peppers has said that, kind of framed this as a potential extortion case. I haven't, I'm not in courtroom. I don't know what his side's evidence is, what the other side's evidence is, but this is generally something the Patriots take very seriously. So I would imagine if he is back on the field, there would be something to come with that kind of shows his side of the story. We'll hear from Gerard Mayo tomorrow. He'll shed more light on it. But for now, he's back. Like, look, he can be back on the roster and they can tell him, don't come in the building. Yeah. They can essentially impose a team suspension, or maybe they're comfortable with their investigation on the side of it and they welcome him back. With that court date not till after the season, like the statement from the league said, he would have missed 12 games, which, the suspension for this sort of thing from the league, the baseline is 6 to 7 games, which, whether or not that's right or wrong, that's the number. So I think the league just kind of realized that at this point, nothing was going to be solved till after the season, and they put it on the team. And now we wait and see how the team reacts.
Yeah. So that's the big thing, next kind of shoe to drop, is do they let him back in the facility and let him practice and play? He says his argument in court has been that he has, video evidence and all that. So if they're comfortable letting him play, they are free to do so now. But we do hear from Gerard Mayo tomorrow, I think right before 11:30, right in that area. So obviously will be a talking point now. We'll see his plan. They are practicing tomorrow too, right? I think it's more of a walkthrough, but I
believe that was the plan, right?
They will be on the practice field at 1:00, open locker room at 12. So we will be able to tell if Jabril Peppers is in the building, talk to Gerard Mayo, and hopefully get a little more clarity about if he'll be with the team moving forward. But for now, he is off the commissioner's exempt list. He is on the active roster, so he is, again, able to participate in all these team activities. But they could tell him to stay away while this investigation keeps going, or they could welcome him back if they want to do so. So we'll wait and see. Again, we'll get some more clarity tomorrow. But that was the news within the last hour with Jabril Peppers. And now we can move on to that football game that took place on Sunday. It was non-competitive for large portions of that. You could say maybe they showed a little fight, the Patriots, in the fourth quarter there, scoring 15 points, but 34-15 loss to the Miami Dolphins. let's just start how we start all of these shows lately, Barth. How do you feel about Gerard Mayo and his coaching staff after it seemed like they were trending and the whole team was trending, even though they weren't winning games, trending in the positive direction? This was a big step back from recent weeks and the kind of uncompetitive butt kicking in Miami.
Yeah, I would say more than recent weeks. Look, I've used that Jets game as kind of the bar, as kind of the barometer for I last week I talked about, it was a poorly coached game. It wasn't quite as bad as the Jets, but it was poorly coached. After the Titans, it wasn't quite as bad as the Jets. I think there's a new floor. I really do. I think there's a new basement. I think this was the worst, at least the Jets game. And look, not to make excuses, but to just kind of size things up, short week. First ever short week for this coaching staff. It came just 3 weeks into the season. Like, it wasn't an easy game. It was poorly coached, but it wasn't necessarily the easiest spot. I'm not saying this was super easy, but this is a divisional team, a team you know well, especially for the defensive staff that's been here. They've game planned for Miami before. They game planned for Tua and Waddle and Hill and Mike McDaniel before. And to come out and just get caught with your pants down like that, and then the things within the game, the penalties, that's usually a sign of players that aren't prepared correctly or aren't confident in their assignments, things like that, aren't sure of their assignments. Players like that get a little bit twitchy. So a lot of that's on the coaching staff. This is as much of a mark against the coaching staff, this game, as any game we've seen this year.
You mentioned the defense. That was what I was most disappointed in.
Same.
You had so much issues last week against the Rams with all this motion, right? I think they were 84% of their plays, the Rams running motion. What did you expect Miami to do? They're 1-2, Miami and Los Angeles in motion at the snap, and you come out there and same mistakes. The communication was poor. Miami ran 93.7% of their plays with motion. Tua had all 4 of his touchdown passes with motion. And then you hear in the locker room, you could see it on the field, but the players, even Gerard Mayo, said the communication was poor. We had trouble dealing with it. Kyle Duggar, who's like your captain and veteran safety, I know he's working through an ankle injury, but he's really in the area, the wrong area, because of just mental lapses on all 4 of the touchdowns. So that was what kind of bothered me, was you just saw this last week and you struggled with it. You knew Miami was going to be motioning the hell out of every snap, which they did, and you were still you seemed kind of unprepared, as you said, caught with your pants down. So one of the buzzwords really in the locker room after was just lack of focus, and that comes back to Gerard Mayo and his coaching staff. If you have defenders not being focused, the penalties on offense, a lot of that comes back to focus. You have a guy like Austin Hooper, a 9-10 year vet, just lining up off sides. Like, that stuff is unacceptable, and just comes back to a lack of focus. So you question, I don't know, do you think Mayo's message is getting to them here? Or, he had the quotes. I want to get your thoughts on his quotes too after the game, or he said it's just kind of on the players once they're in between the white lines. Just what do you think is the disconnect there between the coaching staff and the players at the focus level? 13, 12 weeks, 12 games into the season isn't where it needs to be for this team.
I mean, it's tough to pin that down exactly. And look, it's tough to keep a 3-8 team locked in. By the way, they're officially eliminated from winning the division yesterday. Still not eliminated from the playoffs, but officially eliminated from the division.
The path lives for the playoffs.
There is still a path, but they will finish under 500 now, guaranteed for the 3rd year in a row and 4th in the last 5. So it's hard to keep a team like that engaged. It's hard. And, this was, I think, some of what happened down the stretch last year. You had a bunch of guys, the last couple of years, you had a bunch of guys that knew nothing but winning and didn't really know what to do in this situation. Van Pelt's been in Cleveland. They've been bad. Mayo's been here the last few years, but it can be tough to keep this team engaged. And I don't necessarily know the answer. I don't know what the button is to press. Last time he called them soft, and that worked. But as we said at the time, you can't just go smashing that button. You're going to have to find different ways to do it. I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to figure it out. It's not easy to keep a team like this engaged, but you got to find a way, especially in year 1 when you're trying to build a culture, and they just haven't done that.
Yep. What'd you think of the comments? The big quote after the game was, the in between the white lines. Did that bother you at all? Like, I get what he's saying. Like, there is some responsibility on the players, right? Like, you can hammer this stuff home, but at some point, Austin Hooper has to have a little accountability too for, lining up in the neutral zone or especially the pre-snap penalties, which was the big one. Some of that does fall on the players, but some of the message and like some of that comes from the coaching staff, obviously too. So did you have a problem with Mayo kind of saying that after the game, that once the players are in between the white lines, like some of it is on them and they have to start performing better there too?
I don't think I had as much of a problem as some people, and people have pointed this out. When you look at the question that he's asked, it is an important piece of context that got lost here. The quote, Gerard, you said it starts with you, but when do the players have to start looking at themselves? I mean, you can only do so much. When is it on the players? So he's being asked specifically about the players. That's a pretty loaded question. There's a lot, like, credit to whoever asked that. There's a lot of meat on the bone there. Don't answer it. Like, that's my bigger problem. This is, and it's, kind of become a pattern this year where I understand what he's saying, but he said it in probably the worst way possible. And the reality is you don't need to answer that. That is where the classic Bill Belichick, I need to coach better, we need to play better. Like, just give him a default answer. That question is set up to fail with an honest answer, because you're being asked basically, do you taking you out of it, is there blame on the players? Which of course there is. Of course there is. But you shouldn't say that as the head coach. And, it's been compared a little bit to, say, the soft comment earlier this year. And I said at the time, well, that one didn't bother me a ton because he had said it to the team in the locker room before. And as long as it's addressed with the team, that totally changes the context. He also wasn't wrong. Let's not forget about that. They were playing very soft at the time.
He did say, I don't know if you heard him on the radio this morning. He was asked about that, and he kind of reiterated it. He said again, like, once you cross the white lines, there's nothing I can do for you. And he has said that's been his message since he was here since 19 as a linebackers coach. He says he does tell his players that message a lot. So
so that
the players have. He made it seem like the players have heard that message. He wasn't saying it to the media for the first time.
So that changes the context of it. And Juwan Bentley, I know, came to his defense on Twitter, but just don't recognize at a certain point when there's a question that you just should not answer, and find the way to talk around it. Find the way to, I need to coach better. We need to play better, right? I don't know that there was a right answer he could have given to that question to actually answer it. And that's what he tried to do. That's when you just got to dodge and move on.
Yep. He did take a lot of accountability. Most of his answers started that way. Like it's
right. That's why it's kind of wild that this,
yeah. It was the last question, of course. He almost got out of there, but last question. Yeah.
I think he realized he starts walking away from the podium, like mid-answer.
That's when you got to get your Bill Belichick media trading in there and just, give a nothing burger. But, just a lot of the same mistakes. So frustrating from the coaching staff in that aspect. Let's move on. We talked about that defense, but very quickly, before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Prize Picks, where you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You just make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Barth and I submit our Patriots lineup every game day, and you can join in or extend it to the entire league with stars like Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes, and more. They have a special free square for Thanksgiving night. Tyreek Hill over or more than half a receiving yard against the Packers. I believe that's the Thursday night game, Thanksgiving nightcap. So Tyreek Hill only needs to receive more than half a receiving yard for the projection to hit. And if you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, we talked a little bit in there about some of the defensive lapses yesterday, handling the motion. Tua just picked them apart, like balls out quick, tearing up over the middle of the field, just no pass rush. Um, what'd you just overall thoughts on that defensive performance before we can get into some of the players and some of the nitty gritty stuff on that side of the football?
I mean, you kind of said it, and I talked about it a lot last week. Here is a chance for DeMarcus Covington to show that, he learned something against the Rams, that he can adjust. Nope, didn't see it. And look, the Dolphins are good, and the Dolphins have talent, and they went out there and made plays, but a lot of zone again from the Patriots, moved Christian Gonzalez around. They allowed Tua to get comfortable. I don't mind that they didn't blitz a ton because it wasn't going to make a difference, but you still got to get something with 4. And they really didn't. Credit Christian Barmore. He got his first sack. And I wish it had come in a better game because it deserves more attention. Really incredible that he got back on the field. But just overall, again, the lack of a plan, the lack of urgency on defense was striking.
Yep. That and the Christian Gonzalez touchdown, like you wish it didn't come when you're down 34-7, right? His first career touchdown. He still just keeps getting all of his turnovers against the Dolphins, which is interesting. But Christian Gonzalez was awesome as he usually is. He did his part. I will say though, is another cornerback sneaking up your draft needs here? Are we gonna start talking about Will Johnson, Travis Hunter as a corner? Maybe not first round, maybe second, day 2. Like Marcus Jones, I really like him as a, slot corner, but you can see some of the issues when you move him to like the number 2 role. They might need another cornerback. They do need another cornerback, and that offseason need is kind of skyrocketing up the list right now.
Look, it would be great to be able to get a guy like a Will Johnson, with a 1-1A with Gonzalez. They don't have the luxury of doing that. Not in the draft.
Yeah.
Too many other needs. I mean, they should be trying to get a Jason McCourty type, just solid, reliable number 2 boundary corner to play opposite Gonzalez. It's a nice thought. Way too many other needs. Too many other needs, especially, I mean, we'll get to the offense. There should no longer be a debate about what their biggest need is. It shouldn't be.
Defense also feels easier to buy in free agency.
Yep.
And I know the corner market isn't great, but there are guys like Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed could be an interesting guy, like someone you can pay to come in there, play opposite Christian Gonzalez, slide Marcus Jones back inside. We'd still, someone just brought up in the chat, Alex Austin, like maybe we see more of him.
Yeah,
down
can
the
we
stretch.
see the guys they have? Alex Austin, Isaiah Bolden. I mean, it goes back to the adjustments.
Yeah.
Can we see some of the guys that they have that I don't know why they're refusing to play these guys, especially, I mean, we'll get to the Colts. Alex Austin's a good matchup guy against the Colts.
This week's got to be Alex Austin or even Zay Bolden. Like I've been dying to see some more of Zay Bolden anywhere on the field. They don't want to use him as a kick returner. So maybe corner, but like Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, AD Mitchell, like those guys have some size. I get maybe not Alex Austin versus Jalen Waddle, right? Like that seems like a recipe for disaster, but see what you have in some of these other guys, especially now that the matchups are going to kind of present for it and allow for it going down the stretch. So would like to see more of Alex Austin and Zay Bolden maybe in those roles. So anything else though for that defense? I mean, are you worried about Kyle Duggar, or do you think that's more just the ankle injury, but the mental side of the game was a real struggle? Anything on Duggar?
The mental side is going to look like a struggle, I think, if you can't move the way you want to move. Because you're going to start overcompensating and trying to adapt and things like that. I do think it's mostly the ankle. Now, he had some coverage issues this year before he got hurt, but he's never been much of a coverage player. They're really missing Jabril Peppers, and the ability to split those two. Safety could be another sneaky offseason need for this team, especially if Peppers isn't coming back. So, I mean, I'm worried about Kyle Duggar. They can't win when he's playing this way. They're not going to play well defensively when he's playing this way. You hope it's just the injury, but we'll have to see. It was clearly bothering him at one point. Like he re-aggravated it during the game. He came off the field slowly, so it's clearly still bothering him.
I think it was his other ankle, wasn't it? Because it was.
Oh, was it?
It was.
So I just kind of assumed. That's on me.
He grabbed the ankle that wasn't taped. He had his right ankle taped and his left he grabbed his left ankle. So
isn't that why you're supposed to tape both ankles?
I'm guessing he just taped the ankle that was hurt. So I don't know. Maybe he hurt the other one. He did finish the game, but we'll see. It was definitely not Kyle Duggar's best performance. So yeah, if you could get Jabril Peppers back, like if he's ready to go, that would be a big boost. We did see more like Marte Mapu. Maybe, I mean, Gerard Mayo did say there's going to be changes. I don't know if that would be Kyle Duggar. Like the one game, we just lost Barth. Some of the games Duggar did miss. We saw Mapu, Del Pettis, Jalen Hawkins, they all got game balls. So maybe they do go somewhere without Kyle Duggar for a little bit there. Sit him down, let him get healthy. Barth's coming back in right now. There he is.
Banged out.
So
I'm good.
All right. Any
you
last? Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
You got me? All right.
Yeah.
Any last defensive thoughts there before we can talk about this offense?
I would just say before it cut out, I heard you talking about the lineup changes. I'm more interested at corner than up front. I just don't think they have the bodies up front, and I don't think you're going to bench a captain. So
yeah,
I hopefully that means more Alex Austin and maybe Isaiah Bolden.
Yep. Well, I think lineup changes are definitely coming on the offensive line. We saw one mid-game. They sat down Trey Jacobs. They put City So in at right tackle, who was like their only healthy lineman on bench right there. So it was rough for Vidarian Lowe and Trey Jacobs. 6 total penalties, 4 on Vidarian Lowe, 2 on Jacobs. I think it was 11 combined quarterback pressures, 2 sacks. Lowe was the strip sack. I put a good amount of that on Drake May, but it was Vidarian Lowe's guy he was blocking. Eventually, they do sit down Trey Jacobs. You really can't sit down Vidarian Lowe. You don't have anyone behind him, but the tackle position is not good. Again, they did go to City So, who is a guard, even though he spent his rookie training camp at tackle. So maybe that's an experiment. They try again. Hopefully, Caden Wallace gets back here and he can play right tackle to end the year. But what are you doing along the offensive line here for these last 5 games? And just what'd you think of that performance from yesterday?
It was bad. It was bad. And this is a reminder that tackle is this team's biggest need. I know everybody kind of enjoyed Vidarian Lowe being better than expected for a month, but this is a reminder that was never sustainable. And they got a little bit of help with the continuity, but that was you weren't going to get another season like that out of Vidarian Lowe. Forget the rest of this one. Right tackle, I'm interested to see what happens because, like you said, Caden Wallace has seemed like he's trending towards being back. You got to see what you have in him at right tackle. He's not a left tackle, and I don't need to see Mike Onwenu at right tackle again. I've seen that. And the City So tackle experiment last year didn't work, but I like that they put him in there because, again, just stop moving Mike Onwenu, and it shows that they're not going to force Layden Robinson into that spot anymore, which we saw them do earlier this year. I want to see Caden Wallace at right tackle. I want to see what that looks like. And then I think it's Michael Jordan who's going to lose his job when Cole Strange comes back. Ben Brown didn't exactly have a Hall of Fame game yesterday, but he was fine, especially compared to what you got from Jordan. Plus, it's Strange's natural position. I think those are the 2 changes you make as soon as you can make them, right? They're health dependent. If neither one of those guys is ready, I'd probably just roll with Michael Jordan for another week. At right tackle, I might consider giving City So a start just because it was really rough from DeMontre Jacobs, but you got to get Wallace and Strange back in the lineup.
Yep. If I definitely agree with Michael Jordan, and he's been trending in that direction. We've talked about that. That play has, been falling off the last few games. If Strange isn't ready, would you consider Layden Robinson there? I know he's been working on the left side. Is that, and maybe. I know he had his issues as well, but is it at a point where it's like, okay, the veteran is struggling. Let's just see Layden Robinson, and maybe if he ends the year positively, that could check a box for next year. You feel comfortable rolling with him at left guard, kind of similar with Caden Wallace. Like if he ends the year at right tackle, a good 4 games, that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable going into the offseason. So is Layden Robinson maybe a consideration for you at left guard if Cole Strange isn't ready yet?
I just worry about, like, we're getting into that neighborhood where I'm starting to worry about Drake May developing bad habits. Those were 2, and we'll get to Drake May. Those were 2 ugly, ugly turnovers he had due in part to really obscene pressure. I mean, it wasn't your usual, that shouldn't be routine. You should see that kind of pressure once every couple games, and it happened to him twice and a half. So if you can't protect the quarterback, I'm not. And do they have 5 guys that can protect the quarterback? I don't know. Maybe not. But I've seen Layden Robinson's pass protection on the right side. It's not going to be any better on the left side. I would be hesitant because right now, goal number 1 has to be making sure you don't screw it up with Drake May here over the last 5 games, because you're starting to see the pressure get to him, not on individual plays, but on a play-to-play and even a game-to-game basis. And that is the worst possible thing that can happen. This is why I said, and I'm not saying that they should sit him down, but this was the idea behind sitting him. Can he survive 6 games of it? Hopefully. It's not super unrealistic. It's a bit of an ask. If he was facing this for 17 games, forget about it. Forget about it. He'd be done by now. So they have to make sure every move is done. I really don't care about Layden Robinson's development at this point. Even when it comes to Caden Wallace, like because I know I probably sound like a hypocrite here. I want to see what they have in Caden Wallace. If he can't pass block, next. You cannot leave Drake May out to dry the way they did yesterday. The individual, like the total number of pressures isn't that high, but the blow-bys were significant. And there were enough of them to be notable.
It felt like he was running around a little bit more than previous games, like outside the pocket, like having to make plays, run around a little bit more. So,
which he was doing a better job of making plays in the pocket leading up to that. So this is where you get into, you don't want that to become a habit for him. And you don't want him having to feel like, well, I guess I got to stiff arm this 290-pound defensive lineman off of me. Like and he said after the game, it was a dumb play. That's a dumb play. But when you're facing pressure like that over and over and over, and you're losing the game at a certain point, you're going to look at that and say, well, I guess I have to do something about it because nobody else is. And you don't want that mentality becoming internalized, because that's how you get a reckless quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the interesting line you have to kind of walk on the offensive line, especially because, it'd be one thing to just say, we're going to play Javon Baker at wide receiver the whole game and get him snaps. But, when it's Layden Robinson or Caden Wallace, for as great as it would be to put those guys in and have them play a great 5 games, and you go in the next season being, okay, Layden Robinson's our starting left guard, Caden Wallace can play right tackle. The downside, of 2 rookies and pass protection for 5 games, is the pressure going to get too much for Drake May if there's free rushers on mental lapses, right? Like they can't pick up a stunt or a line game or a twist or anything right now. Is that going to keep trending? And is it just going to be way too much for Drake May? So maybe if you just get one of those guys in, like Caden Wallace at right tackle, probably makes the most sense, because the play there it was just benchable. As you saw in Miami. So he'd be next to Mike Onwenu. That's his natural position, Caden Wallace at right tackle. So maybe that's an easier switch. And then if Cole could come back at left guard, that would be a real boost, I think, to try and settle that offensive line down just a little bit and get a little bit better play to end the year here. But let's do a little bit more on Drake. It wasn't, I hit you with all the nerd stats last week because they were all good. The nerd stats didn't love his performance as much this week. Definitely didn't seem like he definitely wasn't the biggest problem on the team. He had a few out of structure plays. He finally hit the big one to Austin Hooper, but he had some misses earlier in the game. But what'd you think of Drake's day kind of as a whole there in Miami?
There were some high points, certainly. The throw to Austin Hooper was very impressive, but the turnovers are still at the forefront. The 2 more, 1 fumble, 1 interception, both avoidable. The interception a little reminiscent to the one in Tennessee where he didn't get enough on a throwaway. Now it came because Jalen Ramsey came in unblocked again on a blitz and got right in his face, but had a third one that he was lucky got overturned. That was I think they got it right as a pretty borderline call. You're still seeing these roller coasters where there's some unbelievable plays and there's some really head scratching turnovers, and either one has to go up or the other has to go down, because it's not a sustainable rate right now. And he has 11 turnovers in essentially 6 starts, 6 and a quarter if you factor in the Jets game. That's 2 turnovers a game, basically. That's That's a lot. And if you're going to overcome that, he needs to do even and the pieces around him will get better and that will help, but he's going to need to do more. I think the easier thing is cut down on the turnovers. So, it was another rookie Drake May game. You saw a lot to like, but you also saw some things that scared you.
I didn't mind the interception because it did get tipped, and it was a hell of a play by the Miami defensive lineman to like get off his block and then make a one-handed catch. You could say maybe just, you have Jalen Ramsey right in your face running at you free. Maybe just dart the ball, put it in Antonio Gibson's feet or throw it away. But like that was like tip your cap to the Dolphins for, getting the tip and then that guy making a great catch. So, and I think he kind of said that after the game, like wasn't his worst decision. The fumble he said was horrible, like trying to swim move a guy. So that one was bad.
Yeah.
But what point do you get concerned with the turnovers? Is that like if he's still turning it over at this clip week 8 next season, or is there a point where like, okay, like he has a turnover problem, this is concerning? Because I don't want to be too concerned now because again, he's a rookie. You're going to ride this roller coaster, especially in this offense where he has to do a lot of it, right? You just said he's trying to make plays in some situations, but what point do you think it does become a concern and a problem, if you could try and pinpoint that?
So, well, let me say this first. I don't think it's a concern right now. He still has time. But if Alex Van Pelt mentioned the 10 interceptions by the end of the year, staying under 10 interceptions for the year, which right now that would mean he throws 3 or fewer in the last 5 games, which would be great at this point. That'd be great. Yeah. If you can kind of nip the turnover thing in the bud now, then when you get to the offseason, you're not worried about it. And as you design the offense, as you continue to build out the offense, you can get more complex because you already have that box checked. If you're going through the offseason as a coach and designing and refining the offense, well, now if the turnover thing's still a problem, that's a factor. And can we run some more complex concepts? Can we do this? Can we do that? Or do the training wheels still have to be on? And maybe you get there. He wouldn't be the first rookie quarterback that's still an issue going into year 2, but there would be a significant benefit of him putting it to bed this year, even if he can put it to bed with just 5 weeks to go. Maybe too late at this point. I still think he can. Like if he can keep it under a turnover game, right? If he has 4 turnovers or fewer over the last 5 games, I'll feel pretty good about it. I'll say lesson learned. When does it become a problem? Yeah, I think probably midway next year. If he has like a full season of starts, so when would he make his 17th start? It would be
week 5. He'll play.
Oh yeah, it would be pretty early. All right, so call it once he gets around like 20, 25 starts. If it's still at this rate, if it's still 2 a game, and look, it's not going to be like, all right, he's turning it over twice a game. It just drops off to nothing, right? It's going to be, it's not going to be perfectly linear. It's going to fade down. If you're not seeing any progress in it by like end of October next year, then I'm going to be worried about it because he should at that point have a better roster around him. He's going to be seeing a lot of these teams for the second, third time. He's going to have a better idea of what's going on with his opponent. At that point, I think you start to raise the alarm bells. But that's not to say that, okay, just take that long because you can. There's real benefits in getting it figured out sooner.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you could end with the 3 and 5 and keep it at that 10 mark that Van Pelt said, that would be amazing.
Well, that's interceptions though. Like the fumble thing too.
Yeah, he didn't mention fumbles, right?
He didn't, which honestly is a bigger concern to me because you're going to throw interceptions. We know he's going to be kind of an interception-ish prone quarterback. I think he's going to probably have double-digit interceptions. Even if he hits that apex, he's still going to have double-digit interceptions or close to it most years. Every time he gets hit in the pocket, you're kind of expecting a fumble at this point. You're looking for the ball. Like that's the one that really needs to be fixed because that, like, again, to the Josh Allen comps. All right, fine. If that's what we're using as a blueprint, Josh Allen throws a ton of interceptions. He makes it work because he makes some really outstanding plays, and there needs to be more plus plays on the other side of it. That's the other way you counter this turnover problem, and some of that will come with better personnel. The fumble thing is like there's not a lot of quarterbacks that fumble at a rate like this. He has to be much better holding onto that ball when he gets hit. And it's not, the weird thing is like, it's not even like he's like running and scrambling and getting hit in the open field and fumbling the ball. They're all strip sacks. Has to be better about that.
Yesterday's was more like the running and open field, trying to swim move the guy. But
I call that a strip sack. You're not really going to be in that kind of situation in the open field where you're backpedaling with somebody coming at you that low. Like that's, I still count that as a strip sack. I'm talking about like he's running and some linebacker clocks him out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, there goes the ball because he got blown up. Right? It's situation. He hasn't like been taking these massive hits where, oh yeah, of course the ball came. I think that was one of them, but it's been a lot of just he's been loose with the ball.
The Texans one where like he got clocked from the blind side. That was one of those.
Yeah.
So, and that's also, you say put a better supporting cast around him and you hope that falls. Like, let's not let free rushers in 2.2 seconds and have the chance even to get a strip sack. So you hope that, the better supporting cast around him will help kind of cut down on those turnovers. He doesn't have to carry the load and try to make all these plays. That was Drake's day. Just kind of riding that rookie roller coaster yet again. You get some good and you get some bad. So before we get to the rest of the offense and kind of close this one out, if you want to go see Drake May play live this Sunday, make sure you guys do so with the Game Time app. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier because it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Cheapest get-in price for Colts at Patriots at Gillette Stadium on Sunday is $63 on the Game Time app right now. Or they have some super deals available, $138 to move down to the lower bowl, or they have $164, a couple rows right up from behind the Patriots home bench. Good spot to watch the game there. So make sure you head to Game Time for their lowest prices, guaranteed, and other in-app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and of course Game Time Picks, which makes it easier to save on all your tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, just any last thoughts on anything offensive related? We saw wasn't the best day for Ramondre Stevenson, but some of that had to do with the offensive line. We saw a little bit more Antonio Gibson, who we should see more of it. Good things even more happen when Antonio Gibson gets the ball. Anything from those backs, or you can go to the receivers as well there.
Shame they couldn't run the ball super well after the performance they had running against Miami last time. Looks like Kayshon Bouttie's maybe fallen off. He had another rough game, wasn't getting open a ton. 2 offensive pass interferences, which you don't see a ton of. The offensive offsides also, all the penalties are inexcusable, but some really bizarre ones. But yeah, I think Boutie's kind of fallen off, which is impacting the offense because even like he was the deep threat, even more so than they were before. Now it's all underneath and in the middle.
Yep. I think they're 6 of 17, Drake and Boutte, on like passes over 10 yards. They were 0 for 3 yesterday against Miami. So that's been a part of their offense. And they've been kind of going to this shorter passing game, quick passing game, but they haven't been able to get those kind of bigger plays downfield. That connection with Drake and Boutte isn't necessarily there. So that's, I don't know. I would like to see Javon Baker there, but you put him out for 10 snaps and he runs the wrong route. It looks like, Drake fires a pass into the dirt. So
he got his first target,
but I don't know. Like I would love to see the kids because, Boutte, like pass interferences, the chemistry is not there. He's wearing coverage. And I don't want to get on him too much because like he's not an X receiver and he's kind of being forced to play X in this offense. But you have Javon Baker, who's an X, and like if Boutie's going to make mistakes, like we know Baker's probably going to make mistakes. Again, you just saw it, but maybe he can give you a play or two, one of those explosive plays. But if they just don't trust him to be out there, like that's a difficult kind of bridge to walk or toe to line or whatever the saying is. But I don't know if we'll see maybe more Baker down the stretch. But they do kind of have their receiver, hierarchy. It seems like it's, Booty's out there all the time. Polk plays in 12 personnel. When they go to 11, it's Pop and KB. So I don't know if that will get adjusted down the stretch there, but we'll see how I would like more of the kids, but if they're going to be making those mental errors, might not be comfortable playing them out there. So is that it? Offense?
Yeah, that's it for offense.
Yep. I think that's it. So just very quickly, we got to get out of here for Taylor and Mike to take over, but just special teams still just not great entire performance. Missed the kick. Bryce Behringer had another kind of misfire, the 39-yard punt at the end of the first half there. So
they also, what happened on that first return? Like Schooler standing right next to him, and just, did he think he called fair catch? But even so, then you stand in front of him, not next to him, and he's still within reach to get him.
I didn't watch it back, but I remember the broadcast thought he called fair catch.
Yeah, the broadcast thought a lot of things. I'm not going off the broadcast. The broadcast, Marte
Mapu. Same broadcast crew this week.
Also, who the hell calls it rec yards? Like rack yards is one thing. Yards after receiving yards. That REC stands for receiving, dude. I've never heard rec yards. Ugh, I got douche chills from that. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. That bothered me.
Don't you love having like the 5th and 6th broadcast teams nowadays?
I sometimes I put it on just because like I'll pause the game and go back and look at stuff, and so it's tough to sync it up with the radio. I might just have to go Bob and Zoe full time.
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah,
I would recommend everybody else do that. You don't all have to go back and look at the game like that. Bob and Zoe, way to go.
Definitely 98.5. But yeah, that punt, that was interesting because he took it like 13, 15 yards, something in that range. So punt coverage issue, just it doesn't feel like they've been able to put a full game together in that unit since early in the season. So just looking for that full kind of game there still from that special teams unit. But unless you have any last thoughts or any notes we didn't get to, I believe that is it. Anything to end with?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So I believe we're going to be back tomorrow, right? Is that still?
I think that's unless you want to do Wednesday morning, but at that point, it may make more sense just do tomorrow night.
Yeah. I think tomorrow, Tuesday night, is going to be our next show with the kind of altered schedule and Thanksgiving week. So we'll do a little, I know it's early in the week, we'll do a little Colts talk, but we're also going to turn it over to you guys and do a Q&A. We haven't done one of those really all season, so we'll do a Q&A, probably a lot of draft talk, some college football talk in that, and then we will do a little Colts preview. That'll be our Colts preview for the week. So make sure you tune into that. You can subscribe to Patriots Press Pass on YouTube so you know when we go live. Follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter. You can also follow me at I am Brian Hines and Barth at Real Alex Barth. We'll let you know when we're going to go live. Maybe a little Boston sports talk too tomorrow. We got some Boston things happening.
Yeah, it might be worth it. Kristaps Porzingis back tonight.
Porzingis is back. Jim Montgomery tampering, maybe. We'll see. But come with your questions tomorrow because we'll answer it all. So Taylor and Mike will be up next on Patriots Press Pass. If you want to tune into that, we'll let you know again on Twitter or on YouTube if you check in there when we're going live tomorrow night. So make sure you guys tune into that. You can also head to 985thesportshub.com for Alex's Patriots coverage on there and patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage online there as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys tomorrow.